You are watching Shalom World News. I'm David Kerr from Lansing in Michigan, and these are your latest news headlines from around the world. Compelling taxpayers to fund abortion is both an assault on the dignity of life and contrary to the wishes of most Americans. That's the message from the new head of the Knights of Columbus, the world's largest Catholic fraternal organisation. Supreme Knight Patrick Kelly made his comments following a decision by the US House of Representatives on Thursday, July the 19th, to pass a new spending bill that permits the funding of abortions at home and abroad. The legislation in question deliberately excludes the so-called Hyde Amendment. That's the 45-year-old federal policy that prohibits the funding of most elective abortions within the US healthcare system, Medicaid. The spending bill also excludes the so-called Weldon Amendment, which makes federal funding to state and local governments depending on upholding conscience protections for those in healthcare. In response, the president of the US March for Life, Jeannie Mancini, says no American should be forced to compromise their values, especially not on life and death issues. Meanwhile, the previous day saw the House of Representatives also pass a state and foreign operations budget for the 2022 fiscal year that excludes the so-called Helms Amendment. That's a 50-year-old federal policy which bars funding of abortions abroad as part of US foreign aid. It will now be for the other House of the US Congress, the Senate, to endorse or reject all these proposals in the weeks to come. A leading member of the European Parliament is calling for a robust European Union response to China's continued clampdown on civil liberties within Hong Kong. Reinhard Bütikofer is the chair of the European Parliament's Delegation for Relations with China. He believes the EU has to act in response to Chinese violation of promises given to Hong Kong residents in 1997. When the former British colony was handed back to China. Mr. Bütikofer was speaking in the wake of the Chinese Communist Party imposing a new law on Hong Kong that will make it mandatory for politicians there to swear an oath of loyalty to Beijing. The new oath also prevents politicians from sporting T-shirts with pro-democracy slogans and also from raising an umbrella, which is a symbol of the Hong Kong democracy movement. Anyone found to have breached the new oath could be suspended from office and disqualified from running for elections for 5 years. The governor of South Carolina in the United States is leading a coalition of state governors in a bid to overturn the country's present abortion laws. On Thursday, July the 29th, Governor Henry McMaster filed an amicus brief or supporting legal argument with the US Supreme Court, which is set to review the twin historic legal decisions which underpin America's current abortion regime. They are Roe v. Wade from 1973 and Planned Parenthood v. Casey from 1992. This coming fall, the Supreme Court will hear a new case in which Mississippi's only abortion clinic, Jackson Women's Health Organization, will challenge the legality of their state's Gestational Age Act. It prohibits abortion after 15 weeks of life in the womb, with exceptions for medical emergency or severe fetal abnormality. In his submission to the Supreme Court, Governor McMaster argued that states should have the authority to regulate abortion without federal interference. He was joined in making that case by 11 other state governors who each signed the amicus brief. A man has appeared in court in Scotland accused of assaulting a priest while he was praying in church. The priest was attacked at St Mary's Cathedral in Edinburgh on Monday morning. The cleric managed to escape without any injury. Following the attack, police arrested 31-year-old Jason Irvin in the northern English county of Cumbria. Mr Irvin was also charged in relation to another assault in Edinburgh city centre, which also took place on Monday. Mr Irvin appeared before Edinburgh Sheriff Court on Thursday, where he made no plea before being remanded in custody. Peru's bishops are urging the citizens of the South American nation to celebrate and defend their democratic institutions. The bishops made their statement to coincide with the bicentenary of Peruvian independence from Spain on July the 28th. The president of the Peruvian Episcopal Conference, Archbishop Miguel Cabrera Vidarte of Trujillo, invited people to share the joy of being heirs to a great history and to defend democratic institutions. In a video entitled "All United for Peru," Archbishop Vidarte stressed the need to build peace and promote integral human development. He also called for a commitment to reconciliation and social friendship in a nation which has a violent past which, he said, still leaves many unhealed wounds. Staying in South America, and Pope Francis is urging Catholic communicators in Brazil to be instruments of reconciliation and unity within their nation. The Holy Father made his plea in a message to the participants of the 12th annual meeting of Catholic communicators, organised by the Brazilian Bishops' Conference. Noting that Christians are called to be a sign of hope and solidarity, the Pope emphasised that Christian communicators should be on the front line in promoting a form of communication that builds bridges, seeks dialogue, and overcomes ideological contradictions. Finally, representatives of the National Party in the Australian state of Victoria have vowed to oppose an attempt to scrap the reading of the Lord's Prayer prior to each parliamentary session. The push to ditch the long-standing custom of reading the Our Father is being led by the leader of the state's Reason Party, Fiona Patten. She would rather see parliamentarians observe a moment of silence during which they can pray or reflect upon their responsibilities. However, her proposal has been dismissed as a self-indulgent frolic by National Party MP Steph Ryan. She says that the Victorian Parliament should spend its time in finding a way out of the present COVID-19 lockdown rather than debating the removal of tradition. Ms Ryan also proposed that the Lord's Prayer does give members of Parliament a moment to pause and reflect before the beginning of each session. Well, that's your latest headlines for now. Do join us for more tomorrow. You can also visit us at SW News for news updates. Shalom.